Here's the thing, I am very selective when it comes to giving books 5 stars. So when I do, you know it's because I think the book is elite and it's absolutely top tier for me. Also, one of the criteria that I have when giving a book 5 stars is if I can see myself rereading it for years to come, and then I give it a 5-star rating. If I enjoy the book, but I don't see myself ever reading it again, then I give it like a 4 or a 4.5 star rating. With that being said, all the books that I'm about to show you are books that I absolutely adore. They have a special place in my heart. So we're just going to jump right in and chat about books, which is probably my favorite thing to chat about. The first book that I want to show you guys is one of the books that literally made me fall in love with the romance genre. Like, this book cemented my love for the romance genre. And it is The Deal by Elle Kennedy. This is the first book in the Off-Campus series. In my opinion, this is the best book in the whole Off-Campus series. This book is just elite. If you're not familiar with the Off-Campus series, it basically follows a group of college students. All the men in the books are actually all friends. They are teammates. They all play for their college hockey team. I love all of them, if I'm being honest, but Garrett from this book is definitely my favorite. And the books follow their relationships throughout their college years. This book actually follows Garrett, who is actually the star of his college hockey team, and he's on the verge of failing. So he convinces another college student, Hannah, to help tutor him. The only thing is that Hannah wants no parts in tutoring him. Her plate is completely full. She just doesn't have the time. But Garrett convinces Hannah by promising that he'll get her crush to notice her. This book is fake dating, but it also has a little bit of enemies to lovers because it starts off with Hannah not really liking Garrett at all. Like, she wants nothing to do with him. I absolutely love this book. The chemistry between the characters is just 10 out of 10. It has the right amount of romance, spice, and it also touches upon serious topics like abuse and trauma. The only book in the series that I gave a 5-star rating to is The Deal. Not every book is a 5-star read for me, but the whole series as a whole is definitely 5 stars. Another thing that I love about this series is that it's actually dual POV, so you get the male character and the female character's point of view, and I absolutely love when authors do that. This next book has the internet divided for sure. Some people love it, others hate it. I don't really think there's any in between. I personally adore this book, and it is The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. This book basically follows Catalina, who needs a date for her sister's wedding in Spain. Her whole family thinks that she is going to end up alone, that she's never going to find someone that she loves. As a result, she feels pressure to have a date for the wedding, and her only solution to not end up going to her sister's wedding alone is to take her colleague Erin Blackford, who has my heart. I love Erin so much. The only problem is that they actually don't get along. They hate each other, and she's actually really confused as to why he agrees to be her fake date for her sister's wedding. It's such a cute little love story. It's actually really funny in certain parts of the book. It also has some of my favorite tropes. So it has fake dating, grumpy sunshine, and I guess it's also a slow burn because a lot of people complain that the book was really slow. I didn't find it to be slow. I was actually invested throughout the entire time I was reading this book. Like, I did not want to put it down. I read it in one sitting, but to each their own. Everyone's going to like different things, and that's perfectly fine. That is the beauty of books. There's a book for absolutely everyone, but I personally really enjoy this book. I love the chemistry between the characters. I love them individually. I love the scenery, the writing. It was just, again, 10 out of 10 for me. The next 5-star read for me is The Kiss Quotin by Helen Huang. This one basically follows Stella, who is actually autistic, and she has a hard time with intimacy. Because of this, she decides to hire an escort. It sounds crazy, but it works, I promise. It deals with fake dating, and I guess it's kind of insta-lovey as well, which I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. Half of the time, I don't really like insta-love, but for some reason, I didn't mind it in this book, and it made me love the characters even more. This one is also spicy, so keep that in mind. And The Spanish Love Deception is also spicy. I think all of these books that I'm going to mention do have some level of spice. I don't think the spice is overdone in any of these books. I think the spice is just spot on, but just keep that in mind if that's something that you don't enjoy while reading books. This one is definitely a heartwarming story. You're going to have a really hard time not loving the characters in this book because they're just so wholesome, especially Stella. Yeah, absolutely love them. Michael has my heart as well. Absolutely loved his character, and I just think that Stella and him had so much chemistry, and I was smiling throughout the entire book. So highly recommend. Let's take a break from romance for a hot second. This next book that I'm about to show you is actually a very recent read for me, and it is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. I read this book during a 24-hour reading vlog, and let me tell you guys, I cried like a little baby while reading this book. This book has my entire heart. Where the Crawdads Sing follows Kaya, who was abandoned by her entire family at a very young age, so she's had to live in a marsh her entire life alone. It is a fiction coming of age story, and I just absolutely fell in love with her character in this book. You're going to feel so many different emotions while reading this book. I felt sad, I felt happy, I felt angry, and I just absolutely loved the writing. The author did such a great job, and if I'm not mistaken, I think this is Delia Owens' first novel, and she just did an amazing job. I know there's a movie out, but I have not watched it. I definitely want to watch it. Let me know in the comments below if you went to see the movie and did you like it, or do you prefer the book? I have a feeling I'm going to prefer the book because the book is always better than the movies or the TV shows. So again, a very good book. There's a little bit of everything: murder mystery, romance. Highly recommend. If you haven't read this book yet, I don't know what you're doing. Go buy it, read it, and enjoy the emotional roller coaster that you're going to feel with this book. The next book is a book that you're probably sick and tired of me talking about. If you watch any of my videos, then you're probably sick and tired of me talking about all these books because I've mentioned them so many times. But the next book that I gave 5 stars to is The Honeymooners by Christina Lauren. If you didn't know, Christina Lauren is actually 2 authors. They're 2 best friends who decided to write books together, and I think that is so cool. I love that. This is actually the first book that I read from them, and it made me such a huge fan of the writing. This one in particular follows Olive, who is the queen of bad luck. Just bad shit is constantly happening to her, except on the day of her twin sister's wedding, her luck actually turns around, and she, along with the groom's brother, are the only 2 people in the entire wedding party who doesn't get food poisoning. Because of this, the bride and groom begs Olive and Ethan, the groom's brother, to go on their honeymoon for them. Since the trip is non-refundable, they don't want the trip to go to waste, especially when Olive can pretend to be her twin sister and actually enjoy the vacation, which is actually a really sweet thing to do. This book actually had me laughing out loud, lol. It had so many funny parts, and I just enjoyed reading it. I did not put it down. I read it in one sitting. It's enemies to lovers with fake dating, which I don't know why, but I am obsessed with enemies to lovers and fake dating. Those are like my 2 favorite tropes of all time. I can read them over and over, and I promise you I would never get bored. It also has forced proximity, so if you're into that trope, then you might enjoy this book as well. Next, we have Beach Read by Emily Henry. This is also a very recent read for me. I read this book last month and absolutely fell in love with it. This is like enemies to lovers. It involves 2 authors who are experiencing writer's block. They hate each other, but they actually decide to swap genres, and in swapping their genres, they actually end up spending a lot of time together. Things happen, sparks fly. You know where I'm going with this. So absolutely adore this book. I love the characters. Augustus is another book boyfriend that will have my heart forever. One thing that I really like about this book is that yes, it's romance, but it actually deals with a lot more than just romance. It has a lot of life lessons sprinkled throughout the book, such as forgiveness, learning to not only trust yourself but others, and again, it's just 10 out of 10 for me. Definitely check out this book if you haven't already. I feel like the majority of the internet has already read this book. I am very late to the party. Did you think I was going to do a video on my 5-star reads and not include Colleen Hoover? If you did, then you don't know me at all. Of course, I had to include Colleen Hoover in this video, and I'm going to start off with her Slammed series. The entire series for me is 5 stars, but the books individually are not. Actually, the first and third book in the series I gave 5-star ratings to. The second book in the series, I think I gave it 3 or 4. I don't remember correctly, but I know that it's my least favorite, but I still love it regardless. You know, I just don't love it as much as the first book. And Slammed, which is the first book in the series, is actually Colleen Hoover's first book. That is the first book that she ever put out. The entire series follows Will and Lake's relationship, but in the first book, we're introduced to Lake and Will. When Will and Lake first meet, their attraction to one another is pretty instant, but then they discover something that forces them apart. So it is forbidden love because they can't be together. Throughout the book, they're fighting against their emotions. And one thing that I really appreciate about this series, similar to Beach Read by Emily Henry, is that even though it's romance, it also deals with a lot of important life lessons. This entire series had me crying like a little baby. By the time I was reading the final chapter in the third book, I could not stop crying. The stories in this series is just so beautiful. It deals with death, grief, being forced to grow up early. Something that's unique to this series as well is that it actually has poetry sprinkled throughout. I don't know why, but I just really enjoyed that little detail that Colleen Hoover decided to include in the series. I would definitely reread this. The next Colleen Hoover book that is a 5-star read for me is Verity, and this one is very different from her other books. This one is a lot darker, and not a lot of people like it because of that reason, but I absolutely loved it. I don't know what that says about me. This one did it for me. This one follows a struggling writer who is hired by a very successful author's husband, Jeremy. Jeremy basically hires Lowen. His wife Verity has been in an accident, and due to her injury, she can't finish the series herself. Lowen, because she is struggling, agrees, and she actually moves in to their home to do research. And throughout the process of doing research, she comes across Verity's autobiography, which has very dark confessions. Like, as I was reading the book, I was like, how can anyone in their right mind think like that? I still don't know what to think about the ending. If you've read this book, then you probably understand what I'm saying, because the ending just completely throws you in for such a loop, and you're like, wait, what the heck did I just read? Once I started reading this book, I could not put it down. That's another criteria I have with my 5-star rating, which is if I physically can't put a book down because I want to know what happens next, 9 out of 10 times I will end up giving it a 5-star rating, because it's very rare for a book to captivate me from the very beginning until the very last page of the book, and this book definitely did that for me. And even though I was freaked out in certain parts of the book, like, I refused to put it down, and I just needed to know what was going to happen next. The writing, the complexity of the characters, perfect. This book is absolutely perfection. Last but not least, we have The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. When I first read this book, I gave it a 4-star rating, and I decided to change it because I read this book earlier this year. I forget when exactly, maybe in February or March. Till this day, I still think about it, and I still think about the characters. It's such a cute little love story. If for some reason you haven't read this book yet, it basically follows Olive, who, in order to convince her best friend that she is in fact dating, she randomly kisses a graduate professor. And this professor happens to be an asshole. No one in his program likes him, and his name is Adam. For some reason, Adam agrees to fake date Olive to help her convince her friend that she's in fact dating and that her friend doesn't need to worry about her. So of course it is fake dating. It's also Grumpy Sunshine. I absolutely love Adam. He's like one of my top 3 book boyfriends, and honestly, I know that everyone's entitled to their opinions, but I don't want to hear anyone talking shit about this book, because this book deserves all of the praise. Like, it needs to become a movie, and I'm going to be so upset if it never becomes one. This is probably the book that I most recommend on my channel. Whenever anyone asks me for like book recommendations, I'm like, have you read The Love Hypothesis? If you haven't, go read it because you'll love it. There you have it. These are all my 5-star reads, and these books will always have a special place in my heart. I absolutely adore them so much. Let me know in the comments below, what are some of your 5-star reads? I would love to know, because I'm always on the hunt for a good 5-star book. If you have a good recommendation for me, I'll definitely make sure to pick it up. But other than that, that is pretty much it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you did, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. I would love to have you a part of my channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.